Morning, everybody. So I've started work on the Cougar, the F9 F8 Cougar from American to Lasco. This is the framing up of the fuselage, and you see I've got the ducting here, the top and bottom pieces. There are also an inside side and an outboard side, which totally encloses the ducting. I guess you can almost see in this image here of the F8 bulkhead, and you can see the outside piece. You can't see the inside piece. It's an incomplete image, but you get the idea. It's a full box. The interior ducting ends up being a full box, and so I've got it more or less fitted here. It's not glued in just yet, but I am going to adhere it, I think, at least the top and bottom sections, before I pull this off, just to add some reinforcement to these wing root bulkheads, the ones that they stick out pretty far. And so until I get all the stringers on, this will actually add some necessary structure to those parts. I think what I'll probably also do here before I peel this off is add at least 2 top and 2 lower stringers to the rear section. I'm thinking I may just run 2 stringers the full length, top and bottom, just to try and get this area secured. There's kind of a gap right here because this is where the motor would normally go. And so I might also fabricate some additional supports similar to what the ducting looks like, and just run those across here and here, just to kind of link up these bulkheads, if that makes sense. This one out here just kind of floating. Not sure how that will stand up as I'm adding, lifting this off of here and then adding the opposite side bulkheads. I want to make sure I don't fracture or crack any of those. If it does happen, obviously we can make repairs. I just would rather it didn't happen. So you can see we've got pretty good shape here. The forward 2 bulkheads here, and some of the intermediate ones, I guess, came up a bit short of the lower keel. For instance, this fits pretty good, top to bottom, but here, while we're fitted at the top, we're short on the bottom and short on the bottom on the end. And the way the nose block comes off, essentially comes right off of the bottom of the keel. Obviously sanding, I can, once I get this all strung up and infilled, I could just, using the sanding block, take this down to flush. It would alter the shape of the model somewhat. So what I think I'll do instead is we'll keep the stringers tight, but when we put these lower infill pieces in, when I put those in, I'm going to bring them flush to the bottom, to the keel. And that way when I go to sand, we'll be sanding to this shape here and not to the bulkhead. We won't be reducing it that far. We'll reduce it a little bit by sanding and getting everything smooth for paint, but it won't come anywhere near to this far in, this 1/8 inch, actually more like, I don't know, it's a heavy 1/8 inch, and I don't want to take that much material off the bottom. Going backward, the fit resumed here at bulkhead, what is this, 7? So from 7 on back, we've got pretty good sizing. They look right. It's just this forward end here. So anyway, it's coming together. This is the progress to date. It's just about ready to be pulled off. But again, I think I'm going to reinforce this a little bit before I take it apart. And I think I'm also going to go ahead and install the top and bottom ducting pieces. Now what that'll do, if I do that now, I'll have to create, and what I'll probably do is paint and using white glue install cardstock laminations for this. So I'll paint the cardstock silver slide it in there after everything's fitted, and that'll give us our aluminum look to the ducting. I think that's how I'll do it, because I need to get these in, I think, before I unpin. I think that's going to be critical. It'll just keep the fuselage from twisting or flexing it, bowing maybe at this point, as I'm fitting the opposite side bulkheads. I think that's kind of important. It's right here in the center of the fuselage. You see how big this model is. It's you know, I think it came out to 1/15, maybe 1 to 15.5 inches scale, roughly. So I mean, it's bigger than the other jets I've built, the F4 and the F-18 that I have here. Those that worked out to about a 1/18 scale. This is a larger scale, smaller airplane, on a 1-to-1 to an F4, but this model is bigger than the F4 model, so it's pretty obvious it's a larger scale. I do have room to clean out and install a cockpit, which I plan to do. I may have to, once it's all infilled and so on, move the panel back, I think, to this location. I'll have to double check the images. I think this is too far forward for the panel. I think what I'll end up doing is hogging out or removing most of the upper portion of this bulkhead and creating instead a panel bulkhead behind it. But that remains to be seen. I need to go get some wheels for this thing. Don't have any here. I have a nose wheel I can use, but I don't have the mains in an 1.5 inch diameter. So I'll have to get those, along with a few other things I'll need to finish this airplane. So we got that to look forward to. We're getting close to adding stringers. We're getting close to pulling this off the board and installing the opposite formers. Let's say we're getting close to that step. Stringers are still maybe a day or two away. But this is the Cougar so far. Off to a start. And the parts have actually come off of the sheets pretty well. Die cutting isn't so bad on this kit. It's not great, but it's not as bad as I had feared. All right, later.